Welcome to the LEC post-game lobby. I'm Excoundrel, joined by Ender, Xerxe, and Duke. We've got the boys from Splice today on post-game lobby. And I guess we have to start with that particular game. Fnatic, they got the win. And Duke, actually, you said, I think Fnatic played pretty well. I mean, it looked like a hard comp to execute on.
Yeah, I think they picked a super hard draft. I think a lot of teams would have just collapsed instantly against Origin. I think Origin played a draft that is good, but not good for them. I don't think they understand how to play those kind of drafts. And yeah, Fnatic, they had a draft where the advantage is to play through side, but more through their speed, how to bring number advantage more than raw power through sides with like a heavy split pusher, like we saw the Rise before in the 1-3-1. So it's a really hard comp to pull off, but I think at the moment only a team like Fnatic or G2 can pull off those kind of comps.
Yeah, it's a really hard comp, but I also think we see Fnatic go for this style of thing a lot, where it's like, even if you look at how they want to use this Twisted Fate to influence side lanes, they do this type of thing all the time, and then a lot of times they don't give themselves very easy team fight compositions, where they rely like so hard on Hylissang's Rakan to like find a really solid engage. They do this so often that it almost feels like they're comfortable with it.
Yeah, but what's impressive with it is that they actually still do team fight. Like they were playing through side, but for example, the fight near their blue buff, where they kind of engage, re-engage, yeah, in a comp that they should never win. But I think they have like this knowledge on how to take the team fight through the right choke, when to go in, when to go back, and that's even G2, by the way, are also playing like this, where they don't necessarily draft for team fight, but they force themselves into really good team fight situations.
I think actually, Xerxe, I'm interested in your opinion here. Obviously, Brox on the Elise is something that we've seen quite a lot. Let's say you're in the situation that Brox is in, and there's a couple of obviously really awesome moments that we had from this game. But you're in the situation that Brox is in. You've got a Rengar top into a Kennen. Are you naturally drawn to that lane? Like, what in that situation? What are you thinking in game?
Well, personally, I'm kind of used from the Rengars in solo queue, which kind of end up going either 0-10 or 10-0. So you have to make sure you get that Rengar lane going, and Broxa did a good job of making sure that Bwipo gets ahead here, and don't think there is much Alphari can do on the cannon if Rengar gets going.
Yeah, I mean, I think a bigger part of that was actually Cold's early pathing, because he sort of went red buff to his blue buff and then started pathing down again right around the same time that Alphari was trying to bounce the wave off of top lane, and that's when Broxa came in for the gank. So if anything, I think the coordination between those two players could have been a little bit better to prevent this gank that I thought was like pretty easy to read.
The problem is that they OG had like a ward in the tribush as well, so like they saw Broxa coming, but I guess the communication between Alphari and Cold was a bit off, because I mean, Alphari still ends up flashing, but he dies. So it just ends up being a really bad play for them overall.
You saw, obviously, we had Twisted Fate in this game, huge amount of damage. Duke, I asked you the question before we even came on to PGL. And for a lot of viewers at home, they might see this Twisted Fate pick because it's something that Nemesis plays, but not many other teams do. What is it designed to do? Like, what do you pick this TF for?
TF is actually strong in lane at the moment, especially if you build him AD. So he can somehow contest prio, but even if he doesn't, because he has this ult, he can always weather follow or even initiate on side. When he has prio, it's even better. And Fnatic really love, like, Fnatic carries are usually Reckless or Bwipo. I think Reckless more for the spring split. And in the summer split, they played more first through Nemesis, and now they're playing a lot with Bwipo. And here the win condition is the Rengar in the early game. Like, you weren't gonna snowball the game on a karma. So you just want the TF to always be able to unlock some play by moving around the map as soon as possible. So it's more a catalyst more than a carry himself, but he can become a carry later on into the game.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because a lot of times we see them run this Twisted Fate with Karma as Reckless as champion in the bottom lane, so they don't really have a true AD carry, and that's why this on-hit Twisted Fate, this AD Twisted Fate that itemizes for Rapid Fire Cannon Infinity Edge really allows them to go for that style too, where Reckless can be more of an enabler to speed up Hylissang to make these plays happen and rely less on overall teamfight damage.
Well, speaking of Reckless, your key player of the game is going to be Reckless with 58% of the votes. Should have been Hylissang.
Yeah, 25 stacks on Medjay's. That's like the only thing that matters.
I completely agree with you. He stole Baron. He had 25 stacks on Medjay's. And that was a good karma game from Reckless. He had a fantastic game. I'm just like fawning over that play that Hylissang had in the top lane, where he basically like single-handedly kept Broxa alive and then turned everything around. I was like, that's player of the game right there for me. But actually, speaking of Hylissang, you made a comment, Duke, and I'm interested in exploring this. You said Hylissang and Bwipo are really good at the game. Like, they know the game really well. What is it that they do that makes you kind of know that, like, think that?
And they are really good at understanding what exactly their team is good at, what their win condition is, and how are they going to exactly play through this win condition perfectly. I think they also see really well the limit of the champions they are playing, even if maybe also that's a drawback because they don't play that many champions, I would say. But when they are on their champions, they know really well the limits, and they will find the big play, the clutch play that not many players see. And they are the one actually deciding. For me, they are the real carriers of Fnatic. They are the one actually enabling their team for success.
That's good. Well, let's have a look at the standings, because obviously with that Fnatic win, we can see exactly how that's affected things. And you can see they are now level with you guys in second place. That's a great result for Splice as well, because you're really chasing that top end of the table. Schalke just behind, then Origin, Vitality and Misfits. But realistically, playoffs seem pretty open right now. Obviously, apart from G2, who are starting to storm ahead, I don't think anybody can really say that they aren't the best team in the league right now. Who do you think is going to make it? And we'll assume that you're going to make it. We'll assume that Fnatic will make it. But who do you think is most likely to see those playoff spots alongside you guys?
Well, the first three will probably stay the same. I see Schalke staying in playoffs. I see Origin staying in playoffs, but the sixth place is really hard for me.
It's like, who knows, right? We were joking about it before that top 5 seem pretty locked in. We give Origin the benefit of the doubt, right? Even though they are tied with Vitality in this 5th, 6th spot because of their performance last split and because like this team just should be good. And it seems like their issues they should be able to remedy before the split does end. But that 6th spot, it seems like it's LEC Battle Royale. We're just waiting for one team to rise up over the others.
We're actually looking at some highlights from your game here, guys. And Xerxe, you were obviously popping off on Qiyana. You got player of the game for that particular game.
Oh, that ult was so sick.
It was incredible. I mean, what did you prepare? You said that you assumed the Blitzcrank was coming through. Where did you kind of think that through? Was that because you just assumed that Blitzcrank was a pick into Tarm? Or you kind of played versus them and they've seen it in scrims? Like, how did you kind of read that Blitzcrank coming into this draft?
I mean, yeah, we know that Ignite is a big Blitzcrank player. We heard that it could be pretty decent against Tahm Kench. So we had the option to ban Blitzcrank or Rakan. We just thought that it was not that, like, it could be good on paper against Tahm Kench. I think it's pretty decent, but it wouldn't give them the lane trio, which was what we were looking for to the bot lane. And we were more scared of the Rakan scaling afterwards, even if Blitzcrank actually was a bit problematic when we played through side and slowed us down. I think Rakan could have been actually better. So we just gave them the Blitzcrank, knowing what they would pick, and in the end, it was fine.
And this was a good game from you guys, because yesterday it was a little bit shaky, like mid-game especially, and we'll dive into that in a second. But, you know, this was a really, really solid game. And I think primarily, driven by you, Xerxe. You were playing Qiyana. Obviously, you popped off. You had like an insane game. What was your priority going into that game? You know, playing Qiyana in that scenario with the team comp you had, like, what was going through your mind as a priority to start to snowball your team?
Well, when you play Qiyana, especially as a jungler where you don't have many resources like you do in mid lane, you really need to get that snowball going, because otherwise, like I said, you don't have many resources. So you really have to get the first blood or like make the early ganks work, because otherwise you won't be clearing the jungle as fast as a Skarner. So for me, like the easy target was Azir in that game, and I managed to get the first blood on him. So that put me really ahead. And for me, like from that point, it was really easy to just keep snowballing the game and make sure that I put the controller on my laners.
So he's basically just saying, right, I got that first kill, I can start to snowball it, pick up more. Because I noticed like, then when you transitioned into the more side lane pressure, you were just roaming around, popping people where you could. And that just gave you such a massive advantage. And it was honestly, that game was such a pleasure to watch compared to, and I don't want to say it, but compared to yesterday's game where it was a little bit messy. And people have brought these mid-game issues into question. What is it that you think you were struggling with in the mid-game? Like, in terms of self-identifying problems, what did you think was your mid-game issues, you know, for the most part, previous to that game?
I think there is a lot of everything, but contrary to a lot of, I would say, top teams, maybe aside from G2, I think we are not, but like in the mid-game, we try to learn kind of all the approaches differently so we can play a different draft, and which requires sometimes to play 1-3-1, 4-1, and we were never able to, like, we are not there yet on all of these, but we are slowly ramping up. But the thing is, sometimes we get kind of, how to say, we mixed a bit our approach, and we forget when we do two steps ahead. Sometimes we do one step forward. It was a bit hard for us to kind of solidify our mid game. But I think we are going better and better. But for example, this week, we started to play the game in streams in another way that we saw among different top teams in the world. I can't really go into detail,
No.
but we tried to break down how they do it exactly, but really precisely. But I think we were not there yet, and we tried to implement it yesterday, and we forgot all the hard parts of how to play like this, and we just kept the easy part, and it just looked terrible. So yeah, we had a big discussion yesterday after the game, this morning too, where we discussed again how do we play that style, how do we want to do it, what do we need to do it, and I think we'll be better in the future. But yeah, for sure, our winning game has always been a problem, but slowly but surely, basically, we are fixing things one after the other, but without forgetting one way to play the game, so that if we reach our final form, we'll be ready. We won't be one-dimensional.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I compare you guys to, let's say, a G2 or Fnatic here in the LEC, those two teams are very much, come 20 minutes, they're very willing to just fight over anything, not necessarily just an objective. Like, they'll just go seek you out in your jungle and kill you, and that's a lot of the way that they speed up their games and how they close out games so quickly, on top of the fact that they usually build up good early game leads. When I see you guys play, I feel like there's less of those moments where you take risks and you try to, like, go into the enemy jungle to fight over maybe a non-objective or fight over a wave instead. It's less about that for you guys. It's more setting up around a dragon or a baron. So a lot of times when you play around these timers, it just generally slows down the pace of your games, and that's where the big difference in overall game time comes from me.
I mean, I think the thing is when Fnatic or G2, I mean, especially G2, Fnatic do it to some extent, especially through Bwipo's understanding of the game. When they commit that hard on one side and just force, they don't necessarily take a risk. It's just that they have a better understanding of why they can afford to do it at this moment, and that's something we are working on, for example, at the moment. But yeah, for sure. I mean, they know it, but they have been knowing it for more than 1 year now. Let's say that we are coming from a long way in a sense, that because when we started in spring, we kind of knew nothing about all of this, and slowly but surely we are trying to catch up on those things, and maybe one day we'll be able to be as fast as they do. But the thing is, we also know the mistakes that you have to avoid to just instantly lose the game. So yeah, we just take our time from time to usually, but we just want to make sure that we win.
So I take this opportunity because I've got obviously a pro and a coach with me. I kind of want to talk a little bit about what it's like in a daily life for a pro player, especially for someone of a team like Splyce. Xerxe, what is your daily routine with Splyce?
So my daily routine, like right now, I just wake up. I go after 1 hour after waking up. I like to go to gym. Then I head back to the gaming house, to our office, where we have the lunch at 12, and then we kind of warm up by playing some solo queue games. And around 2 we start playing the scrims. And right now we're doing 5 blocks, so like 5 games in a row. Before we did like 3 games, break, 3 break, and now I feel like we are kind of playing in a way a best of 5. And it feels much better like that. And yeah, we have the review after every single game. And after that, we just head back to our apartments and just sleepy.
But where do you fit in time for Teamfight tactics? Like, what's going on there?
I mean, we don't. Sometimes we fit that in our schedule if we have like 30 minutes before our scrims, or if we have like a team meeting and we don't have enough time to play solo queue.
Are you ranked yet?
Yeah, I happen to be bronze 3, but that's because my teammates are holding me back.
I believe it.
Good answer. Actually, Xerxe, I'm interested. What is your favorite champion in League of Legends?
I would say Kayn. Yes, but because the champion is not so great at the moment, and it's kind of coin flip, because like by the time you get the form, you are not a champion like the first 10 minutes. So that's why it's really hard to execute the champion. But right now, I think Sylas or Kenna might be my favorite. I'm still torn in between.
I'm a big fan of Sylas, actually. I'm a big fan of Sylas. And I had asked you this beforehand. You were like, you didn't really give me an answer. What's the most ridiculous champion you've got to win with from jungle in solo queue?
I mean, recently I saw in NA Academy, they were playing, Dardoch was playing Yasuo jungle. And I was like, that looks really interesting. I should try it out. And then I head into the solo queue, and to my surprise, I only went 0-5.
And you hit your power spike, right?
Yeah, and that's when we surrendered the game. At 15, the game was over.
Oh, no.
That was a troll game by Optic. Let's just be clear there. They're playing Wukong top lane, Diana mid lane. So.
Wait, no, wasn't that the full, that was, no, C9 did the full pirate composition.
Yeah,
they played the
did that
Teamfight
one.
Tactics composition. Yeah, that was funny. And Duke, I'm interested from a personal standpoint, when you're in draft, what is happening? How much say do you have? How much say do the players have? Do you have a specific team comp like exactly planned? Is there flexibility? Like what exactly goes through when you're doing a draft process?
I think it highly depends on how mature the patch is, how much information we have on our opponent. Also, depending on patch, the meta can be whether super wild or you really don't know what they're gonna pick, or it's really structured and we know that if they pick this, etc. So it really depends. Sometimes we have a plan for the whole draft from first pick to the last pick, especially in playoff where, like for example, our last best of 5 against Fnatic, pretty much the first 3 games they had the draft that the full draft was exactly the picks that we thought they would have and we thought that we would have. I think regular season, it really depends on the game. Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. But in terms of players' involvement, I think in our team, I would say it's a lot of decision from the staff, but I would say the players have the final decision. I would say that they have a decision between 2 or 3 champions from time to time. Yeah. And if they have a really good idea about a ban, a pick, I mean, still a conversation, I would say, in the draft.
So it's very much like an open conversation between you and the players. That's cool, because I know that some coaches do like to be a bit more strict with that, and some.
I mean, I don't think that's possible. I think if it's only the coach, I think that the players are just not doing their job. So you can't have an optimal. You can't have an optimal draft because the players in the end are the one feeling the game. They are the one that exactly know. Sometimes they will see stuff depending on one matchup, depending on another champion from another role that will prevent them from playing this champion. And I don't think, like for example, I think even a team like G2, etc., like all those players are talking during the draft. Yeah. And I don't think you can reach an optimal state in draft if players are silent at all.
Right. Well, that is really interesting to know, because I think I always wonder what goes through coaches and players' heads during draft. And speaking of the players, we have the key player of the game leaderboard. Right now, Jankos is first, followed by Broxer, and then closely followed by Humanoid. It's important to note, in the events of ties, the player that has received the highest % of votes will come out on top. So if we get to the end of the season and we have a tied place, it's the percentage of the vote that is going to count. And down there, Caps and Nuke Duck in 4th and 5th as well. Jankos has had a good split. I mean, G2 has had a good split, had a few good splits. But Jankos, I think, especially has impressed me. Xerxe as a jungler, what do you make of Jankos? Do you think he's just the best jungler in the league right now?
Yeah, I definitely think he's one of the best. Like, he's the best jungler because, like, if you imagine, like, you are playing with the most talented roster. Like, all of your laners, like, are really good. And, like, they want to play aggressive, all of them. So, as a jungler, you need to make sure that you are helping. In a way, you have to help all of them at once. So, like, he's doing an insane job at making sure that he tags the enemy jungler, that his laners have all the vision they need, that they don't die to ganks, like all that stuff, and that's a lot of pressure on him. And she's doing an amazing job.
I could never pinpoint exactly what it is, but he does feel like he's everywhere on the map at once, which is just crazy. Especially today, I just saw him all over the place. Ender, what have you been impressed with from Jankos? Because you love jungle pathing. You talk about jungle pathing all the time. Does he have anything specific he does with his pathing that's interesting?
I mean, I just think he's a very smart jungler, you know, in the way he approaches his early games. You know, you mentioned it, like covering, like pushing lanes. It's something that happens so much. And one of the coolest things about G2 is when you have all these talented lanes that a lot of the time have prio in their lanes, it's being able to turn from just not only applying pressure and like being able to help out your lanes, so like trying to push in waves, but then using that pressure to invade enemy jungle and play very far forward. He's always been a player that's liked to go on the offensive, especially in his early games, sometimes to his detriment in the past, but it seems like on this G2 team, everything clicks for this player.
I think that's true, and we'll have to see if any of those players feature in our Alienware big plays, because as we close out Week 6, we need to take a look at some of these plays. First up, Leader had a massive Akali performance versus Fnatic yesterday. 7 solo kills, and that is a tied record for the most in any single LEC game, and I believe that's tied with Forbidden, so from a few years ago. So we can have a look at exactly kind of the solo kills that came out here, but that was like the Jekyll and Hyde Leader. That was the insane pop-off assassin blue mechanical juice Leader that came out there, but obviously he does have the up and down performances. Just from your perspective, Duke, and maybe Andy could...
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say it was a really sweet play. Let's take a look at it.
I think we'll wait to see when it comes up. Yeah, so you can see it here.
Okay, well, let's see what Xerxe and Leader can do. They pick a first fight with Nemesis. Defensive flash from Xerxe trying to get out to safety. Does so. Nemesis does go down in the back. Now Leader's looking for Broxer. No Requiem available. Flash forward from Leader. Broxer goes down. Leader turns his attention to Whippo. Some snakeskin shoes are on the menu for Misfits. Leader has just teleported back in on full HP. He's got himself perfect execution available. Nemesis can come up with TP as well. Leader chases down Hilly. Is picking a fight with Hilly. Bone Skewer doesn't find a target. Baron is going very, very low. Nemesis puts on the world and he's trying to chase forward. Whippo's inside the pit. He's looking for Xerxe. Gets knocked outside. Now Baron is secured. Titanic Hydra Triforce. By the way, the tower's gone down up top. Leader jumps back in. Looks for Hylissang. He's going so low. He just pops him. That was a 2v3. Leader's not done yet. Goes goal with the hourglass. Xerxe picks up the kill. Think about that while Hylissang's being jumped on. Requiem's going to come down. It's not dissuading Misfits yet. Leader continues to jump forward. Hylissang is taken down. Xerxe gets the kill. Leader's found Nemesis. And now Whippo's running for his life.
And they don't have the Sivir. You have something like an Ezreal. They can't play side lane and try to create other pressure points because this happens and Nemesis falls down.
Now he's in a 1v4. Not even... What?
1v3. 1v3.
1v3. Come on, 1v2. Leader can do it again. Now he's looking for Reckless. Goes golden with the hourglass.
They were some mechanical plays.
I mean, the whole game was a highlight reel for Leader.
I mean, it's just him like holding 4 people on his own and like not only he's holding them, like he's actually killing 1 or 2 guys and then he gets out as well. So that's just crazy.
I mean, it's funny too because I remember these like very similar moments when he was playing like Aurelia at EU Masters. He was always this type of guy that would absorb so much pressure and make these pop-off plays. So the first few weeks were really disappointing because it was like, I want to see that player that looked so good on that stage, and to finally see him show up against Fnatic of all teams yesterday was really cool.
And I think as much as he played really well, I think Fnatic's draft had zero tool to deal with Akali. So as soon as she snowballs, like they have 0 CC, they're all squishes, and they have nothing to reveal her. So he played it well, but I mean, it's really well played again. But I want to see him doing.
Just to iterate, he played really well.
He played well, but I don't think he had the hardest game at all to play. And I think it was actually super free for like they first picked Akali, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
actually,
so they first picked Akali, and I think the whole Fnatic comp was just begging for the Akali to slaughter them. So.
Yeah, I did like the flexibility they had between Dan and Leader, though, to be able to actually just, switch lanes completely. I think they could have switched champions if they really wanted to as well. Right, let's have a look at the next play. Excoundrel stepping up. He went up against Rogue. He was one of the big players from Excel, and it really, really caused that massive upset win. So let's take a look at how that went down.
Prophet building up the Mega. Nah, stolen away by Excoundrel. The ammo lands. Prophet already into Mega though, and now we'll see with the Inferno down to 2,000 HP. Prophet going forward. The Cosmic Radiance used, but he has to flash away. Nah, into the wall. 4-man stun. Excel, take the fight. They say Rogue, you can call us out, but we're coming out swinging.
Can we go? Yeah. Look now. Oh my god, baby, let's go.
Oh my god!
Let's go. I got it. I have access for Akali.
Looking to push forward. Larson jumps in. Mystique's taking the Baron. Damage is going to fall to the Baron. And Larson takes the kill. Crescendo coming out with the Cosmic Radiance as well as expect. Jumps onto the backline. He goes golden. Stops time for a second as Prophet's jumping forward. And now the top laners have to retreat back. GA propped on expect. The Gnar into the wall from Excoundrel. Stolen away. And Prophet's gone to his demise. Now Rogue fighting in a 4v4 as Inspired tries to jump on the backline. But Warlight's still there. Jessica takes down Inspired. And Excel continue to set forward. They take the fight. They take the kills. And they will turn back and take the Baron.
I really feel like Excoundrel's been improving, like week on week. He's really, I feel, quite a smart jungler, and especially making that transition from mid to jungle. Xerxe, what do you make of Excoundrel, as a jungler for Excel right now?
I feel like he's been good since last year in H2K, and to me, like he looked like a solid jungler since then. But the problem Excel had, I just felt like they weren't really clicking as a team, so like it was really easy for all of them to just look bad. but I think they were just not playing as a team, and right now they are playing much better, and they took down Misfits as well today. So when they play as a team, like, they are really good.
Yeah, because judging them was pretty difficult because I think like Expect and Cagel always had like pretty solid early games. It's like, you know, they're the consistent parts of this team, but once you fall like significantly behind a mid, like you just can't look good no matter what you're playing. Like once your team falls significantly behind, so to see them come from a lead, and especially like Prophet in his game today on the Rumble looked Expect on the Rumble looked absolutely fantastic, and Cagel's Silas as well was really impressive to see.
I think Kadril looked great today. From the jungle to the top lane, though, Wonder is the king of new picks, and today G2's top laner picked Annie against SK Gaming. You can run fast, but you can't outrun an angry Tibbers.
Flash on head with Poppy. Brown on flash as well. Yeah. I think it's free. I think maybe I'm here. Took all up? Yeah. Nice.
Every week, the hammer shot comes down, Perkz is going to have to flash away from the Bishop, but here comes Wonder. Look at him, he's got the flash engage! Straight in, straight done, easy enough for G2. Saku's trying to run away.
They only have 40 seconds left to end this game.
Do you guys think you can do it? I don't know if that's a yes or no.
Like a very convincing.
Flash, Bear Splat! Flash, Bear Splat! And once again, G2 pick up a quick kill. Pyrion's down.
Fight. Like, if you can't win without me, then oh my god, like the Poppy ult. Hey, I have ult in 10 seconds. Ult in 10. Wait, save your ult from my ult, okay? No.
Annie top. I guess I'll bring the coach into this discussion. Annie top.
The thing is, you can never know if they are borderline troll picking or if it's legit good. I don't think it should be that good. I mean, it has some value. Like, you have this Klepto lane, a bit like Nico, Cannon, etc. While you can also bring this seek and engage, which works especially well in the type of style that G2 wants to play. But I think it's also Wonder kind of messing around. Maybe in the future it will become a really good pick and people will actually start picking it up. Maybe we'll give it a shot. But for me, it's mostly Wonder getting super bored of like his team winning 4v5 most of the time, while he's just chilling on Victor and whatever. And he's like, okay, at this point, if I have to play Victor, I might as well try a random champion. And he just pressed A and found Annie.
I mean, if it works, it works. And for G2, anything works. So it's literally all you can say about the Annie top pick. I actually want to briefly move the discussion before we sort of look towards next week at... we had Mickey and Perkz on yesterday, and they were talking a little bit about where they actually get inspiration from these picks. And they were saying, we look towards Korean solo queue. You know, we just have a look at Korean solo queue. Tristana mid was being played. We kind of wanted to like have a look at that. And you know, there was a lot of things that were drawn inspiration from Korea. How much weight do you give to Korea's Xerxe in terms of drawing inspiration for picks?
To be honest, I haven't watched Korea lately. I feel like they are really boring. Like they are just not doing anything. Really.
Tell that to Papa Smithy next week.
I mean, I actually feel like China is just more entertaining because like they're fighting non-stop, and I can learn a lot from them. And yeah, I mean, the only inspiration I take from Korea is like the Korean solo queue. I just look at what's being played there in the solo queue, and I look what was the highest win rate champion, and then I just try it myself and see if it works for me. And
in terms of, from a coach perspective, you obviously have to look across all of the regions. What do you think of LCK's style right now? And do you think they're doing it right? Do you think EU are doing things better?
I mean, I'm really not sold on the current meta in LCK. Like for me, most of that draft doesn't really make much sense to me. But maybe I'm missing something, so I'm not too sure. I think Korean style has not really changed in the past 3 and 4 years. And the thing is, it has been hailed as the best style of play, which I don't think is the most efficient at all in the current state of the game. It doesn't seem that they are really ready to change, and that's what's holding them back to some extent against teams like G2 or IG. So I think they are good for sure, and I think they are really good at what they are doing. But I think they haven't realized that that's not the only way to play the game, and that's why I don't see them beating a top form G2 or a top form IG, for example.
Just for a layperson, and that's me, what is the Korea style? Like, what exactly is it? How do they play the game?
I mean, it's heavily through 1-3-1 setups, with also, I would say, in the early game they play a lot more for control than actual decisive, aggressive play. And basically, since everyone keeps their tools in hand, with the TP advantage, etc., no one moves in the end. So it's kind of a stalemate for the early game. And afterwards, it's a lot about setting up a proper 1-3-1. But I think also people are respecting each other way too much. And this 1-3-1 is not the only, like, a lot of even analysts outside of around the league esports community would hail this style as the best one, because it used to be like this like 3-4 years ago, and basically we learned the game by watching this, but I think at the moment it's not, and you can basically still play on 3 lanes while not being on 1-3-1, but I'm not going into detail like this because it's also things that we are trying to learn ourselves, and I mean we theorize and we learn. I'm not saying that we are doing it well, but we try. For sure, we are a long way from it. But again, I don't think the Korean style is the only style.
Sure. I mean, it's something that has obviously drawn inspiration for many years in League of Legends. But speaking of looking towards the future, let's have a look at the standings coming up, the schedule rather, coming up for next week. And we'll see exactly what games we've got. Kicking things off, we have Splice versus Misfits, Rogue SK. We're going to have G2 Vitality, Misfits Origin, and then Fnatic taking on Xerxe. You guys now have to take on the... Oh, there's a hand going up here.
I guess there is 2 Misfits, and we played Misfit last week, so I guess
I guess they're playing.
We have got the wrong standings. Who are we playing next week?
I'm not even sure who we are playing next week.
I think we're playing Excel.
Xerxe is missing up there, so that does make sense.
Would make a lot
Good
of
job,
sense.
Xerxe.
All right, so
You will play Canada again.
Xerxe.
Xerxe bailed out the entire broadcast. Thank you, Xerxe. But okay, so let's just say you're going up against Excel. They're a team that's been gaining momentum. How do you guys feel taking on that team right now? Because they are definitely a team that is going from confident, sort of strength to strength, and they seemingly have a certain style that they're sort of adapting to. Do you feel confident going up against them?
And before we felt really comfortable because they were extremely free from the first half, but I think at the moment there is no team that is free at all, and I think that's the good thing. Even Misfit, now that they brought their academy roster on the main team, are actually a good team. So yeah, it should be like we will respect them for sure. I've not been doing really some recent scouting on them, but we will. I mean, we feel confident as we should. I think if you want to aim for us to be a top team, you have to be in those games. Like we will be confident, but we will respect them. So I think they're a pretty decent team at the moment.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And speaking of looking forward to things, it's going to be G2 versus Fnatic on Saturday being our match of the week. I don't know how it could be any other game, those 2 titans clashing at the top of the table. However, that is going to bring us to the close of our post-game lobby. Over in the LCS, Week 8 is about to start with Team Liquid versus Optic Gaming. After the last game, you can catch the rebroadcast of the LEC. So thank you so much, guys. That was all of us from Week 6. Be sure to join us next Friday for more action in the LEC. See you then.
I did not come to play, I came to dominate. Dominate, dominate. I did not come to play, I came to dominate. Dominate, dominate.
Cabochard has Ardent Sensor. They're just cutting through this thing. They're gonna knock Inspire out of the pit. 2K, Inspire. But no! Take it down, Vander! Things go from bad to worse. Vitality had their moment to come back, but the shutdown is there. They must do something. The siege is sustained. Holy heck, that's absolutely huge! And that is the hero moment. Vitality will not make the same mistake twice. They will look to end the game. Vitality will cut Rogue down. Here now needs to try to make it out to safety. Has to be careful. Good damage now coming in. Huge equalizer to the pinch. Trying to throw forward. The cat is on the chase. Kira is getting burned down. Expect now on a rampage. So much damage coming out of the Kiana, but it's not enough. The final chapter, he'll get locked up. He'll get taken down, and XL fans can cheer with pride. XL Esports, fa-la-la-la-la. And the curtain call coming out. They've spotted everything. 3K and dropping. They know this is their disaster moment. Huge ulti coming in. And he steals it too. He gets the walk away, hands in the air pound. Abdage goes down to Xerxe. From bad to worse. That's the one person you don't want to hook. That was the only rule. You broke the only rule. Don't hook them. And disaster. It's a slaughter. Upset though does go godlike in the meantime, and they push on to top 2 as they take down Xerxe in a definitive win.
Look at Hammer shocking one in the mid lane. The damage is coming down onto Pyrion. He's already fallen. The charm comes out. Ragnarok won't save you now. G2 take 2. Do you guys think you can do it? I don't know if that's a yes or no.
Like a very convincing.
No, Flash Bear Splat! Flash Bear Splat! Otherwise, realize the game might slip away from their fingers. Destiny out. Nemesis going in. Already the Baron so low. It's who else would do it but Reckless? It doesn't matter what he picks, he'll take it away.
Martin, you're honored.
It is Fnatic. It is Europe. And this is the League of Legends that we love to see.